Hello, today's In the Hoop project is this mug rug. It's the perfect gift to let someone know that you've been thinking of them. This mug rug has a couple of applique tulips. There's some stippling or quilting in the background. Then you can turn your mug rug and then just finish off the seam in the back. Now I finished this seam actually using some 606, a fusible adhesive. Or you could also use fabric glue, or you could stitch it by hand, but I don't like to stitch by hand. So to make this design, I always start by printing off my layout guide, thread guide, and instructions. The thread guide is really handy for helping you to understand what's going on in each run so you know which thread to choose, and also where you've got action so that you'll know when to add pauses or stop on your machine to do something. The instructions are going to go over some overview, your materials, a few tips, and then a detailed step-by-step instructions, including some little check boxes so you can keep track of where you are. So for materials, I have a 6x8 piece of fabric for the front of the design, a 3x4 piece for the tulips, two 6x6 pieces for the back, and I'm going to prepare those, and I'll talk about how to prepare those in just 1 minute for the back. I've also got a piece of batting. It's about a 1/8 or a 1/16 of an inch under 5x7. You need this to be just under 5x7 so that it doesn't get caught in the hem and make your seams really bulky when you turn it. I've of course got some stabilizer. I'm just using plain tearaway. I've already got that in my 5x7 hoop. Some scissors for trimming, 505 temporary adhesive. I like to use this on each layer that I put down in the hoop. It helps keep it from shifting while it's embroidering. I usually spray this outside, so you won't see me spraying this, but I will be using it. And as I had mentioned, some 606 or a needle and thread or some kind of fabric glue to secure the back after you've turned it. And of course my scissors for trimming the applique. So let me prepare my back pieces. I'm going to bring them over to my work area. I'm just going to set the one there, right side up, face side up. And this other one, I'm going to turn and I'm going to put a fold in it. And that's going to give me that, oops, this is coming loose there, but it's going to give me that nice seam that I can then secure once I turn the design. So I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to fold over at least a 1/2 inch to an inch. And I'm just going to give that a quick press, make sure that looks okay. If I'm happy with how that is, what I like to do is give it a quick spritz and then press and use a little bit of pressure for a couple of seconds. And what that does is that gives you a really nice crease there. You can see how nice and sharp that crease is now. So we'll turn that back over. Now, if your fabric has a pattern on it, you really want to cut your fabric a little bit larger so that when you line things up, you have a little more wiggle room. So I'm just going to line those up like that. And I should have cut this a little bigger even. And I'm going to put 2 little pieces of tape here. And then I'm going to put another, so this is going to keep, the tape is going to keep it in place while I'm stitching, but I can remove that to turn it. And then I'm going to put another piece of tape on the back here. So this was all set for my back. We've got the rest of our fabric. We can go on over to our machine and get started. I've already loaded the design in my machine, and if you have a multi-needle, you might want to go into your edit mode and make sure that you've added some stops where you need to take actions and set the colors that you need. So I've already done that for this and put my thread on the machine, so I'm going to go ahead and get started sewing. And I always, with my 5x7 only has 1 screw, I always put that out so that I know what direction my hoop is going in and out of the machine so I don't get things turned around while I'm stitching. This first run is going to show me where to place the batting. That run is all complete. I've got a line there, so I'll bring that over to my work surface. I just sprayed some 505 on the back of this, And I'm going to set this inside that box. And you want to make sure that you can see the stitching all around the edges. So that means it's not going to get caught in my hem when I turn it. So we'll put this back in the machine and stitch that in place. The batting has been secured in place. I've got a nice border around there. Now the next run is actually just a placement run for the front fabric, but we kind of know where that's going to be, so I'm going to skip that and just put my front fabric down. I've already put a little 505 on the back there. And we're just going to set that there. Make sure I've got some, you can kind of see I've got a little bit of fabric hanging over the edges of all the batting. So I've got enough room there. So we'll put this back in our machine. I'm going to skip one run and then we'll secure this in place. And then it's going to do the stippling and the leaves, and then it's going to pause again so that we can put the tulip fabric down. Our quilting has been stitched, the leaves and stem have been stitched, and the placement line for the tulips has been done. So I'm going to bring that over here, and I'm going to put my tulip fabric down. And this fabric has a pattern. I'm trying to, let's see, I want to get some of that purple in this one. Let's make sure I've got it all covered. I think that'll work nice. Press that in place. We'll secure this, do a run to secure this, and then we will trim the edges. Tulips have been stitched down, so I'm going to bring this over here where I can trim it. For trimming, I like to use these little scissors here. They've got a slight curve, which makes it easier to get down where I'm working. And so I'm just going to lift up slightly on the fabric and just trim as close as I can to those lines. I'll turn this as I'm moving along. And we'll just lift and trim. These, like I said, work really nice for helping you get down there in between the points and pieces. And just pull slightly on that fabric and we'll work our way around. And just keep trimming up this last side, and our applique will be all trimmed. Just check on some of your points there. Sometimes they can stick out a little bit. You might need to come back and just trim those a little bit. Okay, so our tulip has been trimmed. We're going to put this back on the machine. As always, pay attention to the placement of your hoop. Make sure you keep it going the correct direction. So this is going to stitch the outline around the flowers and then the thinking of you, and then we'll pause again so that we can stitch the back to the front. Okay, our design has finished stitching. It's got the satin stitch around there. The text has been added. We're going to place the back fabric on the design. Now, I did not put any 505 spray on this fabric, or if you do, use a very light amount. If you use too much 505, it's going to be hard to turn. So I'm just going to lay this over it, make sure I've got, so I'm going to lift up my edges here a little bit, make sure I've got a little bit of a seam there, or enough space once I stitch it. And I'll lift up this side. That looks good there. My tape is inside of where the edges are. So I've got, you know, enough room. My tape's not going to be stitched. We're going to put this back on the machine. Keep track of our orientation. And we'll stitch this in place and then we'll be done. Thank you, sweetheart. Good job. So our back has been stitched to the front. I can bring that over here. I'm going to go ahead and pop this out of my hoop. I'm going to remove the tape from the design. And let's see if we can get those pieces off the inside as well while we're at it. I usually save my tape so I can reuse it. And I'm going to pull my stabilizer off. And then I'm going to trim, 1/4 inch outside of these lines. Just enough so I've got a little bit there. And you could also use your rotary cutter if you prefer for trimming this. Actually, that may work a little better on that edge there. So however you want to trim, rotary cutter or regular scissors. And then once I've got those edges trimmed, I can go ahead and turn this design through that opening in the back. Now I like to use a little screwdriver. You can also use a knitting needle or a pair of chopsticks to go ahead and poke those corners out. Get them started and then just finish turning them there. And we'll turn this other side. And again, we'll just poke those corners out. And then the only thing left to do is to finish this seam across the back. So you can sew that by hand. And I'm actually going to give it a slight press in here before I go and finish that seam. Just try and get its shape in there. And actually that corner looks like it needs another little poke there. That looks a little better. Okay. So now to finish this seam, you can stitch this. You can use fabric glue. I'm going to use some 606, and I'm going to take this outside to spray it. And one of the things I've actually done is I've taken my instructions and I've cut a line in the middle of the paper, and I'm going to put that here like this. There's my edge. And that's going to make it easier to spray just the inside of the fabric. Where I need it is not get the spray all over the top and bottom. So again, I've just taken a piece of paper with a slit in it, and I've just put that right over my design. And I'm going to go outside so I can spray. So I've got my paper there. I'm just going to give a spray. So I've got that sprayed well. Like I said, my paper helped keep me from getting it all over. We'll take that back and iron that. 606 spray. You just need to press for 30 to 45 seconds. So I've got my iron here and I'm just going to press and I'm going to count to 45. So I'll see you back in 45 seconds. 41, 42, 43, 44, 45. So I've got a nice seam there now that's secured. I'm all set and done, and I've got a great gift to let somebody know that I'm thinking of them. We hope you've enjoyed today's In the Hoop project. If so, please like and subscribe to this channel for more In the Hoop stitching projects. Happy stitching!